All right, let's talk a bit about the sign of Leo. All right, so before we begin, I must stress the fact that when I'm talking about the sign of Leo, I'm not talking about you specifically if your sun is in Leo. And I have to say this for each installment of the series. I know the Leos are waiting to hear about themselves. That's a very Leo thing to do. But I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm merely talking about the sign, although you probably will have some of these qualities. The thing to really understand is that you are more than just your sun sign, because you have every sign and every planet somewhere in your chart. And some of these placements can totally negate the effects and energies of your sun sign, which are why the horoscopes are so hit and miss, is because they only take the sun sign into account and not the full chart. So just keep that in mind. And for those of you who do have your sun in Leo, you may not care to hear about the other signs after your own, but I encourage you to stick around, because Leo is the king. And if you're going to be a good king, you really need to learn all you can about the subjects of whom you rule over. So, with all that out of the way, let's get into the sign of Leo. The first thing that we need to know about the sign of Leo is its ruling planet, which is the sun, the only star within our solar system. We still consider it a planet in astrology, but it is in fact a star, as we know. You can learn a lot about the sign of Leo simply by studying the sun. It could be warm, pleasant, providing light. It could also burn the hell out of you. It can sustain life or it can take it away. All of the planets in our solar system revolve around the sun, just as all the other signs revolve around Leo. Leo is the center of its own universe, as you will see. The second thing you need to know about Leo is its element, which is fixed fire. Extremely important. It's not like the ignition spark of Aries getting the fire started, nor is it like the burning embers about to go out, like in Sagittarius. The fire of Leo is constant and raging. Like the sun, it doesn't go out. It just keeps burning. It is an inferno. You always want to think of fixed signs as being at their peak and the purest form of that element. And in the case of Leo, that element is fire. Now, the thing about fire is that it needs constant attention. If you give it too little, it can dwindle and burn out, or it could spread and burn out of control, much like we've seen with the wildfires in California this past year. Fixed fire needs to be tended to. It needs constant attention. Attention is the fuel that Leo runs on. Out of all the signs in the Zodiac, Leo needs the most attention. If you want to get love from Leo, you need to flatter Leo. Thoughts and words are the air that feeds the fire. But just don't say anything that's not true. That won't go over well at all. If you're going to praise a Leo, make sure it's something that's true. Leo can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Leo likes everyone, unless you lie to them or you betray them. Don't ever cross a Leo unless you want the full fury of fixed fire raining down upon you. Leo is the king, and the punishment for betraying the king is off with their head. Much like Joffrey Baratheon in Game of Thrones, who, spoiler alert, wasn't a true Baratheon at all, but a Lannister, a lion. Now, I'm not saying that Leo is evil like Joffrey, but what I am saying is that if you cross a Leo, don't expect mercy. They will burn you to the ground. It's very wise to respect the king. And Leo is king of the jungle because we want him to be. He wasn't elected, and I say he because the sign is masculine, by way of fixed fire. Nor did Leo campaign to be king. The lion is king because we want him to be king. He's good-natured. He's friendly. He's outgoing. He does right by people. In every culture around the world, the lion is a symbol of high status. Leo is the good king. He's only the bad king like Joffrey in Game of Thrones if you betray the king and do him wrong. Now, Leo corresponds with children. Leo itself is very childlike. It never really matures. Leo is very playful, and you need to understand that one of Leo's greatest gifts is that it brings out the child in all of us. Leo gets all the fun things: sports, plays, movies, entertainment. Some of the highest paid professions are people who play games, your sports professionals, and people who play actors, pretending to be other people. And if you're good enough at these professions, you become a celebrity, otherwise known as a star, just like the ruling planet of Leo is a star. And what do these celebrity stars get? Lots and lots of attention. It's no coincidence that a disproportionate amount of actors in Hollywood are Leos. It's Leo's correspondence with attention that makes it the sign most associated with fame. Just as the sun lights up the sky so everyone can see it, so too can Leo make you well known to others. Now, I'm not saying that all Leos will be famous, and I'm not saying that other signs can't be famous. What I am saying is that out of all the signs, Leo corresponds with fame the most. Leo also corresponds with royalty. Of course it does, because Leo is the king, after all. But whether or not you're a sports player, actor, or royalty, we as a society tend to revere people in these positions. Here in the U.S., celebrities are treated as royalty. I mean, you have to think, is it really worth paying an actor $10 million to appear in a movie? We know a lot of people who would love to do that for free. But they do it because these A-list actors draw attention to their movie. And of course, their acting skills have to be good to warrant that kind of attention. Again, Leo is associated with children. Actors pretend, just like children make believe. Even being a king is a form of make-believe. They're just ordinary people who happen to have a title that the people have to acknowledge or it doesn't work. Speaking of Game of Thrones, there's an interesting thing that Lord Varys says when he says that power resides where men believe it resides, which is true. But we always choose Leo as our king because Leo is the most fun. Again, he brings out the child in all of us. So there's a very strong association with children. It's also the sign you want to look to for having children. And you can look to your chart for that as well. Leo is the sign of romantic love. Again, Leo gets all the fun stuff. Now, it's not the kind of motherly love that we've seen in Cancer. This is romantic love. And Leo also has its correspondences to the heart. Lion heart, brave heart. In Kabbalah, the solar Sephiroth of Taparith is located at the heart. So you can see why the heart, an organ that is used to pump blood throughout your body, has its association with love and romance. And the love of Leo can be so romantic that it's often in love with the idea of love over the person they're supposed to be in love with. One should always be wary of putting others on a pedestal, but especially Leo. So Leo rules over the heart, but also the spine, both of which are required for life. Piercing the heart or severing the spine would bring about the end for most people. The lion isn't just good-natured, but it can be a ferocious killing machine when it needs to be. There are a lot of Leo correspondences in the story of King Solomon, when God said to ask him whatever he wanted of him. And Solomon replied, "Give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong." And God replied to him, "Since you have asked for this, and not for long life or wealth for yourself, nor have you asked for the death of your enemies, but for discernment in administering justice, I will do what you have asked, and I will give you a wise and discerning heart, so that there will never have been anyone like you, nor will there ever be. Moreover, I will give you what you have not asked for, both wealth and honor, so that in your lifetime you will have no equal among kings. And if you walk in obedience to me, and keep my decrees and commands as David your father did, I will give you long life also." So King Solomon, whose magic is the basis of much of ceremonial magic, asked God for a discerning heart, for wisdom, so that he could better serve the people in his governance, so that he could be a good king, like every Leo should be. And Solomon's wisdom was legendary, and so was his wealth, even though he had not asked for it. Gold has a correspondence to Leo as well. Gold draws attention to itself. It sparkles, it's shiny, it's attractive like fire. People fall in love and then they get married, and they put a gold ring on the ring finger, which is also the sun finger. And then out of this union, the husband and wife are supposed to have a child. A lot of Leo correspondences within that. It's been said that gold is a combination of all of the elements, which is a reference to the 4 signs before Leo. The fire of Aries, the earth of Taurus, the air of Gemini, and the water of Cancer. And now you have Leo, who corresponds with gold. Leo may have trouble holding on to its gold, however, because Leo is also the sign of risk-taking and gambling. The casinos know that by giving perks and freebies, they're more likely to get you to gamble when you feel like you're living large like a king. The king takes the most risks. But as they say, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. And one of the biggest risks you could take is something we've already covered. Falling in love romantically. You always risk a broken heart. By now you could see the main correspondences appearing over and over again. We've talked about how Leo rules over actors. Well, think of the risk that an actor takes each and every time they go in for an audition. They're risking rejection, not getting the part, being told that somebody's better than you. That's a very difficult thing for a Leo to hear. How many other professions do you know where you're risking getting rejected over and over and over and over again? Probably not many. Another correspondence to Leo is creativity, which also has an association with children. For you create children, and a child's mind is typically the most creative. Leo is also a very loyal sign, but again, as long as you don't betray them. Now we get to the dark side of Leo. Every sign has a dark side. Where Leo gets in trouble is when it takes itself too seriously. Leo is supposed to be fun-loving, playful, childlike, generous. But if it takes itself too seriously, then it can become egotistical. Leo is the sign of ego. And the Leo that develops a huge ego can turn from the good king into the tyrant, becoming too dominating and controlling. They make it all about them instead of the service that they're supposed to be doing for others, for their subjects, for their people. And we've seen examples of this. We've seen actors who are very humble and gracious. And we've seen divas who think they're better than everyone else and have to have everything exactly their way or they throw a fit. I've used the example before of rock star Axl Rose from the rock group Guns N' Roses. He became famous. He developed a huge ego, which was ultimately his downfall. Half the band, including Slash, their guitarist, didn't want to work with him anymore. And yes, I know they've had a reunion tour, but it's really too little too late. It's all for nostalgia. They could have done so much more had they not broken up due to his ego. Because when Leo develops an ego, they still get attention, but it's all negative. Instead of love and admiration from the people, now it's just disdain and animosity. So Leo needs to learn how to keep its ego in check. No matter what it is you're doing, if you're acting, if you're a musician, if you're playing sports, whatever it is that's earning you the attention and praise of the people, you have to remember that it's not all about you. You may have the skills, but those skills are used in service of the people, without whom there would be no attention. Because Leo can become very domineering and controlling, it can have trouble with being spontaneous, allowing for synchronicity, and just going with the flow. This is something that Leo can improve upon in general. Leo doesn't always have to control everything. It's far better if they don't and allow for the divine to take over once in a while. Going with the flow is harder for Leo to do, but it's well worth it when they do. Leo just needs to be Leo, fun-loving, playful, childlike. And it's hard to be that if you're being domineering and controlling. Taking yourself too seriously isn't the job of Leo. It's the job of the opposing sign of Aquarius and its ruler Saturn. Saturn is serious, the sun is playful. And we'll get more into Saturn when we get to Capricorn and Aquarius. But Leo is the king. All the other signs revolve around Leo. You have Leo in Cancer, the sun and the moon, the two luminaries, which are the king and the queen. And from there, around the Zodiac, the other ruling planets have two signs, going in order from the closest to the sun outward. So next to Cancer and Leo, we have Gemini and Virgo. Both are ruled by Mercury. Next to them, we have Taurus and Libra, who are ruled by Venus. Then we have Aries and Scorpio, ruled by Mars. Pisces and Sagittarius, both ruled by Jupiter. And finally, Aquarius and Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, the farthest from the sun. The sun and the moon are the two luminaries, both giving off light, well, the moon reflecting the sun's light. And Saturn is the opposing darkness. And this is where you get your forces of light and darkness. In Christianity, you have the Son of God, Jesus, which is represented by the sun, and opposing him is Saturn, Satan. This is where it comes from. The sun gets all the fun things, and Saturn gets the not-so-fun things. A lot of duty and responsibility. The sun is playful, Saturn is serious. Leo is the height of summer, fixed fire, while Aquarius is the dead of winter. Leo is all about bright, sunny, big open spaces, not dark, enclosed spaces. And like I said, we'll get into more of that when we get to Capricorn and Aquarius, but I wanted to start setting it up now while we're here in Leo so that you can get an idea of the dynamic between them. Leo's motto is I will. Its day is Sunday. Its colors are gold and yellow. And its tarot card is Strength. And that will do it for the sign of Leo. I love Leos. My mother's son is in Leo. My girlfriend's son is in Leo. I got a lot of love for Leo. My advice to those encountering Leo is to give them attention respectfully and let them play. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. Leave a like and share it if you do. I would very much appreciate it, and someone else may too. Follow me over at Twitter at Frater Xavier, and consider supporting this channel on Patreon or Subscribestar, where each supporter gets early access to Mystery School videos before they're available elsewhere. I'm Frater Xavier, and I'll see you next time. Take care.